Hello. Welcome to a Friday edition of the Sportsintel.com podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Goldberg. We've got the quad box. We got everybody here today. Matt DeSaro, Vic Choxy, Eric Gibbs, somebody's child in the background. It's all good. And we are here to mainly discuss week 4 of the NFL season. But really, guys, why are we talking about football today? There's only one thing to talk about today. It's Major League Baseball. Because we got one more game, baby. We got one more game. Woo! Slam Diego. Just wanted to get that in there. What a show yesterday. But we survived. And we'll try it again today. It was interesting. You guys will find this fascinating. So my wife and I are season ticket holders for the Padres here in San Diego. And General Manager A.J. Preller called us this morning.
Oh, wow.
As season ticket holder. Yes, we got a very early phone call from the GM. And because I guess he found out that I'm left-handed. So he called and said, hey, Jeff, can you come down this afternoon, maybe give us an inning? Maybe a couple batters, you think? You think you could do it? I said, sure, I'll be there. It'll be fascinating. I don't know what they're going to do today. I mean, they're going to be they may not even be able to go 9 innings today. I think they're going to have, Will Myers is going to be throwing a couple innings when this game's over. But anyway, I just wanted to, give a little hat tip to my boys. And hopefully, what do you think, Matt? Yankees, Padres in about 3 weeks? Does that sound good to you?
I'd be very happy with that situation.
Little 1998 redo?
Yeah, why not? That'd be fun. We could put on some
maybe this time. Yeah, maybe this time they'll actually call the third strike on the Yankee hitter instead of letting him hit a grand slam. Maybe we can right that wrong. But
every time you talk about
somewhere Mark Langston he probably wakes up in the middle of the night every night seeing that 2-2 pitch to Tino. But anyway, we are here to talk football. We are missing one game, as we know, this weekend. They have formally rescheduled the Titans Steelers to week 7, right? And then they'll take the bye week the next week. It's a little complicated, but I think it works out fine. As long as Tennessee can get back on the field next week. But let's go around and talk about what games are being played. And we always like to start with our man, our pick master, Vic's picks. Vic, what do you give me a quick overview? What's we know we're going to get a Vic's picks video and story later today, and what's going to be in there?
Yes, sir. Did some research. There's a bunch of games that I really like this weekend. I love the Miami Dolphins. I think that's a really good spot for them against the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm going to write about why. And then I don't love this week's slate as much as I have weeks past, but there's definitely a couple other games that are in there. I'm looking at Buffalo, Vegas, and then New England, Kansas City. Eric's going to have a lot to say about that maybe, but, I kind of lean New England there. I think Cam's been doing good. Eric's going to hate on it soon, but I think there's some value in the Patriots. It'll be fun to watch Belichick versus Mahomes and Reed. And then you got a couple of pissed off teams, the Ravens against a crappy team and the Rams against a crappy team. So those are some of the games I've been looking at. I'm working on the write-up. It'll be up later at sportsintel.com, so make sure you guys check it out. But, I'll throw it back to you guys. What are some games you're looking at? Maybe Eric, how about you?
I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and not necessarily because of Peyton. It's just the overall performance of the Patriots, right? I think the Chiefs are rewriting the rule book on the NFL this year, and the way they've been performing so far has just been on a completely different level. Mahomes he's a wild man, and he's unstoppable. I just don't see the Patriots defense being able to stop him enough to be able to take the game.
Eric, let me ask you about that game. So the over-under for that is 53.5. So would you agree that might be a good spot for the over? That because the Chiefs are going to score points, right? I mean, we've seen it. The Patriots, they're not really stopping anybody. They almost seem like that's a little bit low. I mean, that's a big number usually, but 53.5 kind of low for that game, don't you think?
Well, I'm not sure that I would agree with that based on pretty much only on the Patriots' performance last week. I don't know if they're going to be able to be strong enough to step forward. If anything, it's up to the Chiefs to take the over. I wouldn't rely on the Patriots to put up the numbers. I just don't think overall they'll reach that level.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we could easily see the Chiefs put up a 30 or a 35, right? I mean, I think that's not a stretch. So, yeah, I guess it's just a matter, can the Patriots get to like 21? Can they get 3 touchdowns? I don't know. I think they probably could. It could be like a 38-21 kind of game. I think that would be I think that's well within the range of outcomes. But, yeah, boy, because the Patriots defense just isn't what, for obvious reasons. I mean, they're missing so many guys and no one else stopping the Chiefs. I don't know why anybody would think this particular iteration of the Patriots defense is going to be able to stop them. I think, yeah, if I'm playing in fantasy, I'm loading up on all my Chiefs guys, and I'll take my chance.
It's not a bad call. You look at the unders and overs for the entire season so far, and the overs are doing really well, surprisingly well.
Yes.
So it's certainly a possibility. But like I said, if anything, it's going to come off of the Chiefs side and not so much off of the Pats side.
Yeah. Which, by the way, another hit for Vic last night and for our man Joey Odessa. They both loved the over last night, and they hit that. That was a strange game. I don't think anybody really expected I think we liked the over there with 40 points that they would hit that, but I don't think anybody figured the Broncos were going to put up that massive number. Even with throwing a pick 6, they still put up a huge number. So that was kind of an interesting. It was a crazy game last night. Adam Gase. So Adam Gase could still be coach on Monday. Do we think? Matt, you've got your finger on the pulse of New York sports. Adam Gase is going to make it to Monday.
Again, he should not make it to Monday. That was hard. I mean, they got beat up by the third or fourth string quarterback or the Denver Broncos. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
At this point, it's really concerning to me the state of New York football in general, except for the Bills, I guess. But we're going to be vying number 1 and 2 for the worst records in the league, I think.
Yeah. It's the Trevor. At least Trevor Lawrence knows he's got a real good chance playing New York next year. That is whenever he hires his agent, they're going to be very happy about that. A lot of endorsements will be coming up for that young man.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, Matt, what do you like? What's your the game you like this week?
Actually, since we're on the topic of New York sports, that was kind of the game I was looking at. The Rams just taking the Giants to town. I don't think they got a chance in hell. I think the Rams could put up 40 points this weekend on them. And, I don't know, buy a few points on the spread if you feel good about it.
Yeah. I got a couple I like. Staying in the state of New York. I don't know. Vic, you knew this last week. So San Francisco last week, because they had the 2 games in New York back to back, they stayed on the East Coast, right? They stayed in West Virginia. Did the Raiders do that as well? Or did the Raiders go home?
The Raiders went home.
Okay.
They're playing.
That's
it's at Las Vegas this weekend.
Oh, I'm looking at it. I thought it said it was in Buffalo.
No. It's in
Did I
Vegas.
see that wrong?
This weekend. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that changes my thought a little bit then. I must have misread that. I thought that they had to come back and play in Buffalo, and I was surprised at how low the line was. But I still like Buffalo there. Buffalo giving 3, even on the road. What's on the road these days? Like, it doesn't matter on the road. So that's a spot. I see the Bills continuing to do the kind of things they've been doing. Another one that I kind of like is Detroit. They're getting 4. I don't know, because me. I've been down on New Orleans from the beginning. It's like one of those like SAT questions. Like, Eric is to Cam Newton as Jeff is to the New Orleans Saints. And so I kind of like Detroit. I thought, they actually looked like a real football team last week going into Arizona and winning that game. And they're getting 4 points. And I just, again, until New Orleans shows me that they're going to be a cohesive unit, I like Detroit's chances of sticking in that game and maybe keeping it close. And, maybe it's like a field goal outcome at the end. So them getting 4, I like them in that spot. And the other one I kind of like, I've also been kind of a little bit of a Bengals truther this year. So I kind of like the Bengals, even giving 3. I think that's a good spot for them. The Chargers, I don't know. The Herbert obviously not ready. And Tampa Bay has a great defense. And even without Godwin, I mean, they're missing a lot of pieces in the secondary, so they may not score a lot of points, but I think they're going to be good enough to win that game. Chargers going to Charger. That's what we always say. Chargers going to Charger. They'll find a way to lose. So I have to go with Tampa. So I guess, how are we feeling about where things stand now with the league? We did want to just talk a little bit now that we have clarity on the situation with Tennessee and the Pittsburgh game. Do we feel like are we feeling good about how the league handled this week? Eric, you're kind of our COVID expert. You've been writing about this stuff since the beginning. You happy with the way the league handled this? You feel like this is going to be a survivable situation, or are you feeling like there's some red flags still flying off of what happened?
Well, obviously there's a red flag, right? I mean, the Titans are still having new positive cases pop up, and that creates a lot of concern. Overall, the league is doing the best that it can do under the circumstances. I'm not necessarily sure that postponing the game the way they have is the right option. We talked last week about how, the Titans have, like everyone else, 50 men to choose from. And that's part of the reason they have such deep teams, right? The deep rosters. Yeah. So that you have backups, and the backups have backups. If your whole front line gets knocked out, you have someone else to turn to. And that's basically the situation the team is in now. Let's just say the front line was knocked out. They should have been calling up the reserves and the backups to take their place. If that costs them the season, so be it. That's the name of the game. I don't think it's necessarily fair to put the entire league into scramble mode just because one team is having difficulty. But at this point, it is what it is. The league is doing the best that it can to stop the problem from getting worse. And as long as the teams and the players abide to the rules, then they'll be able to get things under control. The league itself can only do so much. It all comes down to the individual taking the responsibility and making the commitment to adhere to the policies and do what needs to be done to keep the season moving forward.
Yeah. I would like to think that this has happened, that if there was any sort of lax adhering to the rules, and we've seen it on the field, like, the coaches, on the sidelines not wearing masks. And I guess the league this week said, hey, we're going to start suspending people. If you're not going to, talk about not setting an example. How hard is it? Like the Andy Reid, people make fun of Andy Reid for this, for his face shield, but they should all be doing it. I don't know why they're not all, somebody should be sponsoring that. I mean, what an opportunity. So you could sponsor these coaches' face shield and have them wear and make a little bit of money off of it, and everybody, and then it sets the example. But I feel like the league, I guess they said today, they kind of threw down the gauntlet a little bit, what they said. Basically, they're it's almost like they're trying to bubble them without actually being in the bubble, right? They're now saying if you're on the road, you can't leave your hotel, or there was some new edict that came down this morning that they were really trying to toughen up on their policies. And maybe this was the scare that the league needed to get really serious. I mean, I think that's what happened with baseball. It took this, the Cardinals not being able to play for however long it was. Happened. That was it. We really haven't, there hasn't been any in baseball. oh, here I go again. Now next week there's going to be a huge outbreak in Arlington or something. But and I think maybe now football got the message. Like they were kind of like, in denial about what was capable of happening to them, and now they're going to take it a little bit more seriously, which is a good thing. They definitely got lucky, though. I think we'd all agree they got lucky that Tennessee and Pittsburgh and Baltimore had all their bye weeks like right next to each other, and Pittsburgh was playing ball. I mean, really, like if you were going to have this happen, the way the schedule was set up, it worked out so well that they were able to just switch the bye weeks, and it really was very little disruption. But I think that's just luck more than any kind of design. So yeah, I don't know how many more of these the league can really. I guess if Tennessee is still like if they're in the same boat next week, I don't know what they're going to do. You can only do this once with one team. So I guess we'll have to see. But I'm hoping that this was the shot across the bow for the league that will wake players and coaches up that they really do need to take it seriously. I don't know. What else are you guys thinking? And we're into week 4. As Eric pointed out, and as Joey pointed out in his video for last night, he made it. I thought was a fascinating observation that every single first half over last week, the hit on the over, all of them across the league, which never happens. So Vic, I guess my question to you is, when do we think the defense? Do we think the defense? I think we kind of talked about this maybe the other day, but when are the defenses going to catch up? How many weeks is it going to take for defenses to catch up to the offenses? Yeah,
that's a good question. Usually it's like 2 weeks, right? But because of COVID this year, I feel like there wasn't any preseason, right? So, after this week, I think this will probably be the last big week that you see with some overs. And, Vegas odd makers are also going to keep raising the number as much as they can, right? To try to get some of these totals to come back towards the to split, because right now it's over 60% overs. People are just blindly betting overs and they're hitting. So there was a guy, Rob Pizzola, on Twitter. He posted also a good tweet. I don't know if you guys saw it, but the refs are not calling a lot of holdings this year. The numbers are way down. The flags are way down. And so because of that, you're seeing some discrepancy, and then you're also seeing a lot of DPIs, right? So which helps the offenses as well. So it was an interesting tweet you should check out, why the overs are hitting in his opinion. But I think it's still going to be about one more week for things to kind of even out, to your point, where like defenses are caught up, refs are back in the game, Vegas odd makers kind of adjust the totals to where we're going to start seeing a nice little string of unders. But I don't know, man. Like Eric said, like there's teams like Kansas City that are just machines now, and just the offense has changed so much. The game has changed so much. It's kind of like the NBA. Like everyone's shooting threes now, and totals are going sky high, right? Just things we haven't seen before. So everyone, it seems, is able to move the ball and score points a lot easier than years past. So it'll be interesting to watch. But I say give it one more week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like it kind of feels a little bit like the stock market. Like when do you start hitting the unders, like to try to get ahead of it? Because at some point, defenses are going to catch up, and you want to try to be like that 1 week ahead of the books, and take advantage of some of these high totals before everybody starts figuring it out, and then all the numbers start coming down. And I wonder if there's like an art to that, to know when to be ahead of the trend. And how you try to go about being ahead, what kind of things do you look for to try to get ahead of the curve, and take advantage of that. I don't know if there's any secrets, Vic, that you know of, or any tips that you would share to try to just be ahead of the curve.
If we could time the stock market, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be filling in some islands. That's just saying the truth. Same thing with this stuff, man. I mean, I think this is a good week to dabble on unders if you are trying to time, quote unquote, everything. But again, totals have been raising. They saw what happened last week, the first 3 weeks, and they're kind of trying to even it out And so this would be a good week to dabble, man. I'm just scared. I'm a scaredy cat. So let's see what happens. But it definitely is coming. That I can say, because at the end of the year, right, like they're doing fantastic with sides right now. Everything is 50-50, whether it's, favorites or dogs or home teams or road teams. So, same thing with totals. By the end of the year, things are going to catch up. And so I would say this would be a good week. I would try to pinpoint some teams that you like with better defenses that haven't sustained that many injuries. That might be kind of a subset that you can start with.
Matt, you've been doing our week props, and as we talk about these kind of things where the offense has been so far ahead, are there any individual props or any trends in props that you're seeing that might be worth trying to take advantage of, or are you anticipating any sort of regression to the mean in certain individual totals?
Well, first of all, always kind of call attention to the regression to the mean. It's there for a reason. So yes, I believe that will happen across the board, right? I guess one guy that I was thinking before when we were talking about the Detroit was Adrian Peterson. They do look really good, but they're running him a lot, and he's not fresh legs by any stretch of the imagination. So if somebody, if you're a DFS guy, maybe, I don't know, take a little bit of a second thought about taking him up this week. And if he's on your roster for the season, it might be a good time to start looking to get rid of him.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, there's even a guy like Josh Allen. I mean, is there going to come a point where it's going to he's just going to start throwing more picks or fumbling, or when is it? What is his little run going to end? But I think Eric is right. I wouldn't do that with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to, whatever they're doing is probably going to keep happening, until somebody gets hurt. Maybe if Tyreek Hill gets hurt, or God forbid Mahomes gets hurt, that might slow him down maybe a little bit. But I would just keep, I would just keep hammering on the Chiefs. That's one team that does not seem to be subject to the regression. Eric, anything else? Any other trends or things that you're seeing that you like, or that we should maybe keep an eye on as we go forward? That things that might change here after 3 weeks.
Obviously, just the big thing is watching COVID to see if it spreads out anywhere. The next week or so is really going to be interesting to see if things do get back under control and if the season can stay on schedule. Other than that, there's not a whole lot. The biggest thing still, and fortunately not as bad this past week as it was the week prior, are the number of injuries that are still being seen. It's still out of control. It's not as subdued as it should be. And that's something all of the teams are going to have to worry about. And now when you have everyone starting to look at COVID, it's a double whammy, right? I mean, every single week, players are getting taken out with pretty severe injuries, and it's all because there was lack of preparation before the season started. If there's are continuing instances of these injuries, and we have a bigger COVID threat, it's really going to obviously make a huge difference on how the rest of the season plays out.
Yeah, I had on my list of games that I liked, and one of the ones I originally was thinking, I love Minnesota this week, getting 4 points against Houston, especially if, speaking of injuries, it sounds like Will Fuller might hurt. Shocking news out of Houston. Will Fuller has a hamstring issue. But apparently it just cropped up in practice yesterday. So is he going to be able to play? And if he can't go, then you got to figure, well, that's a great spot if you're going to get 4 points on the Vikings. But then I'm thinking, how many practices does the Vikings even have this week? I mean, they don't have any. They had no positive cases. They seem to have dodged the bullet from playing Tennessee last week, but they were locked out of their facility, I think, until yesterday. And so have they had an opportunity really to prepare for this game? And, could that impact their ability to play well on Sunday? Because they probably didn't even put in a game plan really until yesterday at the earliest. And one practice? So that's an issue. I mean, that you would have to see how does that affect the Vikings, who have not exactly lit up the world as it is, even when they had a full week. So maybe Houston, even with all their issues, maybe that's the play. If the Vikings are going to be adversely affected about how this week affected them, and that's going to be that, and that could be a reality going. What's Tennessee going to be like next week? What is Tennessee's opponent going to be like next week? Are guys going to really want to lock in and block people, like thinking like, Jesus, he's guys spitting all over me. So, that's just a psychological thing that I wonder about. So I think that's a good point, Eric. I mean, we just think about it in terms of whether games can get played or not played, but it has ripple effects beyond just Sunday. And so I would keep an eye on that Minnesota-Houston game just to see like how Minnesota looked. Do they look ragged or do they look like they were prepared? Speaking of injuries, we'll take a few minutes here before we go. Can somebody make a case for putting any money of any kind on the Miami Heat in any scenario, or is it over? I mean, do we even bother with it anymore? What a tragedy! I feel so bad. That could have been a great series, and now it's going to be 40 minutes of Kelly Olynyk. So what is there any hope? Is there any hope for anything Miami related, whether it's tonight or in any of these games?
I'll chime in real quick. Obviously tonight is basically a wash, right? The Heat have so many injuries they're dealing with in their key players. However, there's something that has to be remembered, and I wrote about this today. Each of the times the Heat have gone to win the NBA championship, they lost the first game. The 3 times they've taken the championship, they lost game 1. So, is it too early to count them out? Definitely. Do the injuries make a difference? Most definitely. And that's the key right now is in those previous series, they didn't have to deal with this level of injury, right, with their starters. That's going to make the difference for how the rest of the series plays out. But just because they lost in game 1, which was surprising to everybody, doesn't mean they can be discounted for the rest of the season yet. It kind of will have to see what happens tonight in the game. And if they're able to pull together, I don't expect them to win tonight, but if they can put up a good enough performance, then they have to be considered as still a contender to at least give the Lakers a run for the rest of the series.
Vic?
All right, I appreciate that positivity.
Are you on the Eric train there or no?
I don't know. I mean, look, I hate to count anybody out, but I will say that those Heat teams that did win those championships had 2.5 Hall of Famers on them, and then they weren't injured. Yeah. As much as I hate to say it, they do look like they're dead in the water, but it's really the injuries. They have a team that could put up a fight, and like Eric said, if they can get healthy real quickly, and not get beat up too much tonight, literally and on the scoreboard, they can have a shot to make this a series, maybe. But I don't know. Betting on them to win the championship now, no, not for me.
Yeah, Vic. We're gonna obviously the Heat are gonna have people playing big minutes tonight that have not been playing, either have not played big minutes or haven't played at all. Does that give you any sense of they might be worth betting on? Because sometimes a guy that hasn't played, I don't know what is Kendrick Nunn, is he gonna wind up playing tonight? Does he could he change things, because when he's played well, right? But he just doesn't play. Can Olynyk turn back the clock? I can remember Kelly Olynyk dunking all over LeBron when he was with the Celtics in a playoff series 3 or 4 years ago. He showed he could do it. I don't know. I mean, I would assume that all the money is going to be on the Lakers tonight. Maybe it's not a bad idea. Take a shot and just hope that it's a miracle situation and they just figure out a way to do it, or would you stay away?
Yeah, I mean, the odds makers are obviously going to take into account who's out, and they've shifted the line. It's gone from 4 to 10 right now. And so to your point, I mean, yeah, there's some value in the Heat at like +10, but I'll probably just stay away, man. I mean, if you think about it, Dragic is out and Bam's going to be out. That's the second and third best players. Some will say Bam's probably might be the best player on the team. And then Jimmy Butler's hurt, right? Like he's just a warrior, but like you saw him turn that ankle twice that game. And those look bad. He wears low tops. We've all been there, no matter what sport we play. We've turned our ankle, man. And like to then come back and play at a high level against the best team in the world, I just don't see how he's going to be able to do it, no matter how tough the guy is. He's going to be hobbled for the rest of the series, and especially tonight, right? Just playing such a short turnaround. So I don't know, man. I mean, the rest of their bench, I mean, you got AI too. So Iggy, I mean, how old is he? How much is he going to be able to contribute? Solomon Hill, I mean, you're going to need a guy like Kendrick Nunn. You know, he's one of the guys that can score off the dribble to really, really go off if they want to have a shot tonight. And, you know, the Lakers maybe just are coasting a little bit mentally. Like they think they have this game on lock or the series on lock. So they just take it a little easy. Like something crazy has to happen in order for the Heat to kind of hang around, in my opinion. If they can win or stay close tonight and then they get Bam back, they can have a chance to kind of extend the series. But I'll probably sit it out. I do like live betting some of these finals a little bit. So if you guys are watching, you might be able to get some value. For example, like the Heat start off really well and Lakers are just kind of coasting, right? Like you saw last game. And if you can get the Lakers like -1, -2, -3 or something, like just watching the game, you're like, there's going to be some good value tonight watching it live. So that's what I'm going to be on the lookout for when watching this game. But unfortunately, I think the series is over. The bubble's been fun to watch, but it's kind of an anticlimactic finals if the injuries hold.
Duncan Robinson with the double nickel tonight. What do you think?
That would be sweet.
It's going to go all. Yeah, I wouldn't wait up for that. I wouldn't take that prop. All right. Well, hey, why would you even watch? There's no point in watching the NBA tonight because there's only one thing to watch. We know what that is. You know what that is. Oh, turn around. This is what we're watching tonight, man. San Diego. But so we'll see. Hopefully, we'll have a wonderful Dodgers-Padres division series to talk about on Tuesday. And then, yeah, you can get that Padres-Yankees thing going in a couple weeks. I think Matt and I would be we'll do our own show where we just like try to kill each other. But anyway, thanks for tuning in on an interesting Friday in sports and in the world. Hopefully everything works out best for everybody. And we will be back. We'll be back on Tuesday, and we'll start looking ahead maybe to hopefully a full slate of games week 5 of the NFL. So for Vic and for Matt and for Eric, thank you, and we'll see you again soon.